All nations around the world have always been connected to the animal nation, and it's bringing it into life today because it's about balance and honoring that relationship. Without the animals that crawl upon Mother Earth or swim in the sea or fly in the ocean, we would all cease to live. There's at least one animal that connect to each of us to let us know that they have sacred medicines. As I stared at this polar bear in the eyes, I realized this bear is not here to hurt me. This bear is here to help me. This bear was here to protect me. I realized that spirit was real 100%. In that moment, I clearly understood there's a form of communication that takes place from people in the spirit world. We have an effect on the world around us. We're all vibrational frequency beings here. I had a pretty vivid dream, and it was like the earth had split apart. And I saw one side was just on fire. And we've come here to remember who we are so that we can evolve beyond this separation that we all experience. It takes many people to shift their consciousness, their awareness, to create this new coherence of reality that is going to exist around us. One of the things I teach about animal qualities is the 7 grandfather teachings. I'll just quickly run through them.
Welcome, everybody, to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. Today is really exciting. I have our new friend, Shawn Leonard, with us, and he is an Indigenous medium, which is really cool. I've never met an Indigenous medium. It's important to me because over the last few years of my life, my entire spiritual journey, actually, I felt really connected to Indigenous energy. So I would love to dive into a little bit of that today. But before we get started, I would just love to know, is there anything your heart wants to share in this moment?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on your podcast here, Kyle, and whoever is out there listening to the podcast. I hope that there's a nugget of information or something that comes through, that would help you and move through life in a much better way. It's, I feel like when these things kind of arise, it's not like, whenever anybody asks me, I'm available usually to do a podcast or as such. And I feel like spirit always has a plan because I really feel like, wisdom's not meant to be kept. It's the indigenous way is to be shared, so through your teachings and stories that you share with other people, that's how we expand the consciousness of the world and, help us like think greater and better and live better lives. And it's really not about me, it's about all of us because we're all here together. We're all one big family here in this Mother Earth, and I think it's important that we support each other.
Yeah, there's something so sacred about Indigenous teaching. So I would love to just start with your Indigenous connection. Could you just speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I'm Mi'kmaq from Eastern Canada, which is a province of Nova Scotia. My grandmom, who was Mi'kmaq was from Newfoundland, Mabugak First Nation. Although when she grew up, it was not a First Nation community because Newfoundland wasn't even a part of Canada at that time when my grandmom was born. But, there's was a large, community of Mi'kmaq people living there. Some had moved from Nova Scotia, from my understanding, and I'm not sure wherever everyone else came from. But, either way, eventually, because in Canada too, we lost, especially the women or, the mothers, et cetera. If they were, married a white man they lost their rights. They lost their identity of sorts. So we as Indigenous people were losing our identity, but I think it was 1987, there was a bill passed that allowed everybody, especially women who had lost their identity because they married a Caucasian fellow or someone else of other descent, to regain their status of who they were as an Indigenous people. So growing up, my grandmom would always say, her name was Margaret, and she'd always say, "Sean, you're Mi'kmaq, right?" But I didn't know it was Mi'kmaq because, I mean, it wasn't something growing up that I knew that much about, really. My mom never grew up in the community, and I went to school with the guys that were mixed Mi'kmaq and, like, all other cultures, and I kinda fit in the middle, but it's not like we went to school and said, "Well, let's talk about culture." It wasn't a thing taught back in the day, and, so it's something that has kind of evolved over time with literally asking the spirit world to send me people to help me remember who I am as a Mi'kmaq person, as an Indigenous person. And that's exactly what happened. I had several people show up in my life, elders, and in Canada, I have a TV show called Spirit Talker,
Nice.
and season 5 is just airing right now. And, for those people who would like to check out Spirit Talker, there's a few places you can watch it in the world. If you have a VPN, you can always say you're in Canada and go to aptnlumi.ca, and I think you'll be able to watch all 5 seasons there. If you sign up, I think the first week's free, so you can binge watch all the Spirit Talker you want. There's, Fossum, another app down that you can use in the States to watch season 1, and there's actually a Next Level Soul TV, also has, season 1 and is working on season 2 getting on there. But it's getting out there, it's in and I'm actually shooting a pilot, I believe, at the end of the month, so we'll see where that goes. But, after 5 seasons of touring all of Canada and 13 episodes per season, it was literally an answer prayer, right? And, everything in Indigenous culture is reciprocal because what you put out, you have to, what you give out comes back to you. It's all circular. So like when we have a prayer or a ceremony as such, we make an offering, right? So we may lay down tobacco and then ask the ancestors to hear our words, etc. Which I did, and surprise to me because I never planned ever to do a TV show. And I ended up, getting asked to do a show, and it took me from Indigenous communities all across Canada to meet different elders and different spiritual teachers and knowledge keepers, and allow me to remember and learn again, about who I am as an Indigenous person in our culture. So, and in return on the show, I would do sessions or readings for people in the community and, help some people heal in some families through the work I do. So it was a really, really special time, after 5 seasons. And I'm also an author, of a book through Hay House Publishing called Spirit Talker. And I just have a new book that comes out, just came out on October 21st, which is called Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals,
Nice.
which is, something I'm very deeply connected to, is that, not just my culture, but the animal nation or all nations that, connects us all in the world. Because when without one, I mean, there would be no balance of life. And without the animals that crawl upon, Mother Earth, or crawl within Mother Earth, or swim in the sea, or fly in the ocean, without any one of these, we would all cease to live because it would not be in balance anymore. But so culture is a big part of my life and who I am, and it's still always evolving. And so that's where I am. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many questions that have come to mind, but I'd love to start with the most recent thing you talked about, the book, Walking with Your Spiritual Animal Totem. Could you just speak a little bit more about that? I've went through periods of my life where I had the book where I would, if I saw an animal, I would look and see what it meant. I'm curious what this book means to you.
Right. I mean, my totem animals are literally on the front cover. These
Yeah.
are my 4 totem animals. Does it mean that everybody shares the same totem animals? No, it doesn't. I mean, there's like, millions of animals all across the world. And, one animal that might resonate with me or connect to me particularly, maybe like the eagle. Actually, my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. It's my Indigenous name, and it was gifted to me by an elder. But that year that I was gifted that name, I found all kinds of different eagle feathers. And I literally found 3 that just before I was given the name, I went out for a walk on a beach in Newfoundland, a province in Canada, and found 3 white tail feathers from eagles. So, and to be gifted that name, I knew it was like a synchronicity. It was like, it's not a coincidence. It's something that aligns.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what I feel spirit totem animals, I mean, pre-colonization, you know, all nations around the world, and even still some today,
Mhm.
have always been connected to the animal nation. If you look at East India, in the Hindu people, they have, the elephant-headed goddess. So there's this kind of cross-cultural connection between humanity and the animal nation. If you look at Egyptian people, they were, their cows, their bulls, and oxen, and their cats were sacred to them. The jackals, and you got people with heads of jackals that are, sacred people and such like this. And they may even look at them as like gods or goddesses of sorts. And in the Sami people, the European indigenous people, called the Sami people, very strongly connected to the Caribou Nation, and are actually keepers of the caribou. And if you think about the Norse people and wolves and things like that, it was really richly, deeply connected to us all. And even in Christianity, if you think about it, we have a symbolic form of angels, and the symbol of angels are a cross connection between the human nation and the bird nation because they have wings, from the depictions that we've seen. Do I feel like they always show up that way? No. But there's this kind of, no matter what faith or belief that you have from around the world or a spiritual practice, there's this connection to the animal nation, this celebration, our ceremonies, and it's like bringing it into life today because, again, it's about balance and honoring that relationship. For me, I didn't grow up thinking, "Hey, okay, I know my totem animals," it wasn't like, "Okay, I know who all my totem animals are." It's something that revealed itself over time, and I have 2 very prominent ones, like the eagle, like I said, and, I've been gifted an eagle head for a staff as of recent. I have been gifted an eagle wing. Somebody recently gifted me a whole, eagle carcass that I have to kind of, like, prepare with an elder to kind of, like, gift out some feathers and to work on, etcetera. But it was the bear that really was connected to me through life. Now, one of the things my grandmom told me growing up as a Mi'kmaq person, she said, "Sean, you're Mi'kmaq, but we're also part of the bear clan." I don't know what that means. What does it mean to be part of the bear clan, right? And when you think totems, you think of totem poles and things like this. And, there's a connection to Western Indigenous culture, especially from British Columbia, where they do have like animal totems mixture with people on wooden cedar poles and that tell stories or they're welcoming poles, etc. But I didn't know what a clan was until much later in life, even though my grandma would say that it was my clan. And I had to speak to my chief, Miss Joe, from Newfoundland, and he had said to me that, well, clans, he was from the Bear Clan as well. Clans were an old way of identification in a sense of family name. Because, imagine, when you have these communities, indigenous communities, you wouldn't wanna marry somebody from your own clan or your cousin, etcetera. You'd probably wanna marry somebody outside of your clan, right? The caribou or the elk or the moose or the beaver clan or something. So, you didn't hook up with your Bear Clan friends or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it'd be like you hooking up with somebody in your family type of thing.
Right,
So,
right.
that was my understanding. But once I was given my name and later in life, and I've had throughout my life, I've had experiences, and maybe you can relate to this in your own way, that you may have an animal or you feel drawn to a particular animal that has always been part of your life, you feel deeply connected to, or you see the symbology of it, and you read about it like you said. For me, it was the bear. Even though I was part of my clan, I had bear experiences growing up, like, that were kind of surreal. I remember running into bears in the middle of the woods by myself, just me and my dog would scare the bejeebus out of me. One time, I was out I used to, because when I was nice and young here and, in shape and 28 years old and had like an 8 pack, and ran like the wind, I used to do these races out in Alberta, Canada, and British Columbia, Canada. It was called the Full Moon in June, and they were adventure races. And on these races, you would race in a team of 4 people, and you'd have one person of the opposite sex on your team. You may have seen them on TV or something in the past, like the Eco Challenge and things like this. But I did these races. They'd be like 150 kilometers to 300 kilometers through the mountains, and I was always the fastest hiker. And one time, in my early 20s, I was out in the mountains, and I was well ahead of my team, and it was 40 teams, and we were probably in the top 3, and I was in a clearing, and as I was walking through this clearing, I had my headlamp on because it started on the full moon in June, but it wasn't always a full moon, if you know what I mean. Sometimes it was cloudy, so it was dark. And, so here I am in this clearing where the trees had all burnt down, and I see this big red thing just reflecting my light from a headlamp, and I'm like, "The heck is this?" And I knew all the trees had burnt in the area we were because there was a forest fire there previously some years back. I thought, "Well, there must be one tree still standing because it's fairly high, and it must somebody, for whatever reason, put something reflective on it." And, so I walked closer, down this kind of, like, supposed path through this clearing, as we were racing, and then another one popped up, but they were really far apart. There's no way these could be eyes because nothing would be that high in a tree. If it is, I mean, maybe it's 2 different sets of eyes. And, so I get closer and I walk up and it's this massive grizzly bear.
Wow.
And there is no tree. It is the bear.
Wow.
I know. I'm having like a spiritual experience here because I think I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like there waving my arms and telling the bear, I'm part of your clan. Don't eat me. I'm not going to taste good. You shouldn't eat me because I'm part of the bear clan. And, I didn't know if he understood me or not. And he kind of huffed and he kind of snorted. And,
Mm.
and he didn't look too hungry. He would have already had me eaten by then. And, I think he was probably asleep when I startled him. And he started walking towards me, and I called all my team over the hill, and I said, "Guys, come here." And they all came over and were shining the lights, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "You don't see that bear?" And they're like, "Holy crap, that's the biggest grizzly we've ever seen." So, we start singing Farajaka because 2 of our team members are French, and, so we know if we made noise and if we were together as a group, the chances of being eaten were small. So, now mind you, this bear walked past me, and just like if you imagine Moses parting the sea, imagine this bear parting us, all the lights coming over the hill of all these other teams. He walked right through the middle of them. It was intense, and everybody's coming over like, "You see that grizzly?" Like, "I'm pretty sure I saw that grizzly first." Eh, and, it was a moment. It was a moment.
Yeah.
But really, what did I know I still that at that point had, a connection other than my clan to the bear? No. It was one moment that changed my understanding and connection, from just knowing that I have an indigenous name, etcetera, I have a clan, to knowing animals are spiritually, like, connected to me and watching out for me and protecting me. And it had to do with a polar bear. I was in this again, in a dream. I was in a clearing, and there were 7 shadow people in this clearing. And they were chasing me through this field, and I'm running for my life, not knowing why I needed even to run from these people, but I knew I was in some type of danger. And so I was running for my life to get away from these 7 shadow people in my dream. Now, out on the other side of the forest walked 7 polar bears, and they start running towards me and the people. And I'm like, great, not only do I have to outrun people, I have to outrun freaking polar bears now, too, for God's sakes. What the hell are polar bears doing in the forest anyway? So I'm running towards, and they're running the other way. And I realized I could not outrun the polar bears. So I got on my knees in my dream time, and I waited for the polar bear to eat me.
Wow.
I that's what I thought was gonna happen. And what happened was all 7 polar bears ran past me, and they kind of each of the shadows that were there in the field, each of these polar bears pounced on a shadow, and they just disintegrated. Then all 7 polar bears turned around and merged into one great bear who stood there and stared at me. And as I stared at this polar bear in the eyes, I realized this bear is not here to hurt me. This bear is here to help me. This bear was here to protect me. And then I woke up and I told my wife, and I was so moved by the whole thing. I said, Creator, Great Bear Wabak Moon, I request you to send me something to validate this great connection we have. I'm asking for you to send me one of your claws. I don't know how you're gonna do it because polar bears where I live, just like in Massachusetts, aren't in our neck of the woods, literally.
Right.
Or in Boston area, right? Where you're not
Yeah,
Boston, you're
no,
Massachusetts,
nothing
right?
around here.
Yeah, there's nothing like that here either. We have black bears, we have moose and, things like that. A few beavers kicking around and porcupines, but no white, you know, polar bears. So what happened, some months had gone by, and I got a little package in the mail from a lady named Barbara Kent Bishop. And she lives in Newfoundland, but she, flew to Northern Labrador, which is another part of Newfoundland, but it's on the mainland, and it is where polar bears exist. So she went up there and she met an Inuk elder, like an Inuit person who lived in the north and, where the snow and the white bears are. And when she met him, she was in a ceremony with this person, and he said, "Barbara, I have 2 polar bear claws. One is for you. But this other one is meant to go to someone else, and you're meant to gift it to this other person, and you'll know who this is for." So she goes home and she said, "I thought about it like for 5 minutes, and I knew instantly that I had to gift this to you."
Wow.
So she goes, "I hope that you accept this gift." She wrapped it in a red cloth with the little package, and this is the claw. This is the claw.
That's amazing.
It is. But it gets
That's a
it's
big claw.
it
Wow.
is a big claw. Well,
It's a big claw.
it's a big bear, yeah. So after that, somebody else comes to my house and
Yeah.
says, and she's another Mi'kmaq lady, and she does part-time taxidermy, up in Enfield, Nova Scotia, and she says she came to my house for lunch with a bunch of ladies and, for me and my wife, etcetera, and she brought a little package for me, and she goes, "Shawn, I was just working on a polar bear rug the other day, and there's this little piece left over that I had to cut off because it was torn, and I thought I should gift it to you to put your smudge bowl on or to wrap, your what are your sacred items in?" She says, "Will you accept this?" I'm like, absolutely." After that, I get another call from someone else that says, "Shawn, I know you do sessions, and me and my mom could really use a session, but, is there any way that we could convince you to do a session for us? I know that you're busy and, and we can't afford to pay you, but is there some way that we could find a way?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm really busy. I could refer you to some people just because my life is very chaotic." She goes, "Well, I have this old polar bear rug in my closet that used to belong to my grandfather." She says, If I gift you this, would you do a session for me?" I'm like, let me think about it. Yeah, I think I can do it." And then another, claw came to me. And then, I was down in New York, and I was at the Mega Institute, and I met a lady there who gifted me this, an Indigenous mask, that was made of, I don't know what this is exactly, what the backside is, or but it's carved and it's indigenous, and it's got polar bear hair.
What the
I know, it's
So you
insane.
are you are that.
And I'll save the best one for last. Yeah, other than the claw. While I was writing this book, Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals, I get an email from a lady named Kelly Finnegan and her husband Steve. And she said, Shawn, we'd really like to meet you for coffee. And we have a place in Canada called Tim Hortons. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's pretty famous up this way. And so she goes, "Would you come and meet us for coffee?" And this is like, I'm almost finishing my book. This is just before Christmas and New Year's. And so I met with her, and we go for coffee, and she says, "Well, my husband, Steve, his father, my father-in-law just passed away. But when we're cleaning out all of his stuff, we found something in his home that he's had for 50 years, and we don't know what to do with it. And we're hoping that you will accept this as a gift." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "Well, he had an old polar bear rug, and there's a whole story behind it because he met some Inuk fellow, and it's got the head, the claws, everything. And it's longer than 10 feet and it's more than 10 feet wide. So we don't
Wow.
have any place to put it. Would you accept this gift?" And I said, Absolutely." And he traded a sled with an Inuk person to receive that rug. And he's kept it, like I said, for 50 years. So they gifted it to me. And I'm going to show you the rug. It's right there on my pool table.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? Like, it's
That is
massive,
insane.
right?
Wow.
It's huge, it's bigger, longer than my pool table, and I mean, I can't put it on the wall, and it's not a trophy, it's a sacred object.
Yeah.
And you know what? Some days, if I'm going through stuff in life, I come downstairs and where my office is, and I sit with the bear,
Yeah.
and I talk to him, and I feel, and the cool part is when I look at that bear in the eyes, he was the same bear in my dream.
Wow.
It was the same one. Now I have
Wow.
s Now at this point in my life, I have 6 different parts and I feel like there's 6 of 7. I don't know when the 7th piece will come to me, but I have 6 pieces of different bears. And I feel like when they already were connected to me, I just didn't know who they were yet. They revealed themselves to me, and that's what often happens with animal totems is they reveal themselves to you. They'll show up in your dream. You may be chased by the bear. You may be chased or running with the wolves in the forest, right? Or etcetera, the fox.
Yeah,
There's
that's
different
mine,
things.
that's
Or
mine. That's
right,
yeah,
right,
yeah. So I had a
right. So they're
mystical yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So this is where, these animals come to us and connect to us to let us know that they have sacred medicines. And if you look up, like you said, if you look up the your totem or what you believe is your totem and see the quality or spiritual traits that animal embodies, then you know when you're facing certain situations in life, you can call upon the medicine of the bear to help you through it, the medicine of the fox to help you through it, the medicine of the eagle or the raven, etc. And like I said, it doesn't even, polar bears aren't from around my neck of the woods. You may be connected to, the jackal, or you may be connected to, the leopard, or etc. And many people have these connections to these like panthers and such like that, and they don't even know why, but they just feel drawn to it. And I do feel like we have spiritual guides. We all have spiritual guides, people that walk with us in life that are helping us. And I feel like they too will come to us at different stages of life. I feel like we have many guides. And according to Indigenous culture and the medicine wheel, we have what we say 4 stages of life: infancy, youth, adulthood, and elderhood, for the 4 directions. So if you're not familiar with the medicine wheel, you can always look it up online. And it's got the 4 directions, the 4 colors, which represent all nations of the world. And but I feel like at different aspects and times of our life, from infancy to youth to adult to elder, there's at least one animal, if maybe possibly 2, that connect to each of us. And it's because as we move through life, we shift and change, who we are, right? And how we see life, how we approach life. It's that evolution, that soul's growth that we're all on. And we may need a new guide that is a little bit different than the one we had when we're an infant or when we were a young person, right? Because we're moving into adulthood or to our elder stage of life. We may need to have a guide that has, like especially where you are in your life and what you're doing and serving, helping people right now, Kyle, is that you have, guides that are helping you at this time. Some of them have been with you your whole life, but some will like be very specific in their ability to kind of help you to serve others,
I like that a lot.
right? But the same with the animal totems is the same.
Yeah.
That when we're young, we may have connected to like a particular animal, right? And then as we mature, we feel we're drawn to other animals. And I feel like there's always hints of which animals may be connected to us, but I feel we have at least 4 throughout our life that are with us and walking with us that we could call upon.
Our mission here at the Heart Coherence Collaborative is to get people in touch with the healing power of the heart.
And we really need your help. Right now, only 1% of viewers subscribe. We are aiming to take that number to 6%.
The reason why we want to do that is the more people that subscribe, the more people in the world can learn the magical practice of heart coherence.
So please help us out. If you ever listened, if you love this message, please just take a moment to subscribe.
Thank you so much. We love you.
We love you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're touching on this subject because I have had very mystical moments with foxes that don't make sense, where it'll be like this pivotal moment in my life and I'll be walking somewhere and a fox will come out of nowhere and it'll just look at me, lock eyes for like 20 seconds. And it'll be this really surreal moment where I'm like, I'm just staring face to face with this fox. And this has happened to
Yeah.
me 3 or 4 times with foxes. And it's just like we're like meditating together in the middle of the woods, and then it will run off. And I've
Yeah.
never really thought about that it could be medicine? And
Yeah,
so I
spiritual medicine or guidance for a certain aspect, or maybe a situation going through life that they're trying to remind you, "Hey, I am with you. I'm helping you through a time right now, or I'm guiding you through something particularly at this point." I mean, it's not just the human nation. We have our human, angelic guides, whatever you wanna call them, but we also have animal guides and protectors that are also walking with us.
it
Because
makes so
again,
much sense. Yeah.
right, because everything is within balance, right? I mean, if we were only to approach life from the perspective of humanity, we would never be balanced in life ourselves. So we have to have a multi-diverse connection to between the animal nation, even I feel like the plant nation, the mineral nation. And that's why some people are drawn to certain crystals or certain elements, that are within the world, right? I feel like there's a thing that resonates with us that is so uniquely different than so many other people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this beautiful divine intelligence created everything. So why wouldn't everything be divine and beautiful just, like in that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right,
Absolutely.
right. So I
Oh,
wanna get into the second book, well, the first book you talked about, in that being Spirit Talker. Where does that come
yeah.
from?
Well, Spirit Talker is a He Host published book as well. I don't know if I have it here. Yes, I do, actually. This is Spirit Talker, my first book through Hay Host
Nice.
Publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my newest book.
Yeah, both
This is my
those books
first
look
of books.
badass, by the way. Just the
Oh,
covers,
well, thank you,
they look
yes.
nice. They look really good.
Well, with some help, but I mostly designed the cover of this one.
Yeah, nice, nice.
Because we were working together, I told them what I wanted, so then I really just designed it and said, "This is what I'm thinking," and then
Yeah,
they made
yeah.
it look even better.
Right.
But, they designed this book, cover, but, this book, it's my journey, but it's not, every and that's what I said, like, every person's journey is not just for you. We go through life, we learn, we evolve, we grow, we have different epiphanies and experiences to help us kind of expand and, become the people that we are. But I feel like if you have wisdom because of that experience, it needs to be shared. So that's what I've done with this book. It's kind of like a biographical. And then after that, it's really, taking the wisdom that I've learned to help people understand like how to connect or understanding signs or messages from your loved ones. And because that's what I've been learning throughout my whole life is that connection.
Yeah. So how do you talk to spirits? Could you just dive deeper into that?
Well, I feel like there's a universal language that spirits communicate to us. Can they use words with us sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. I just did an event in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is another state of Canada, and I think there was like 279 people there. But while I did the event, I'm communicating very much what you see other psychic mediums like via communication. But during the event, a spirit was loud enough that the whole audience could hear them.
Really?
And it happened twice. One time the spirit said my name. I was talking to this man and, sometimes when spirit can actually impress a voice into a space or a room, it sounds kind of breathy, in a sense, almost like ghostish of sorts,
Mm.
like, like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's really kind of a breathy voice. They don't have vocal cords, so they kind of like, they use the energy of the space to create a sound, etc. And they use air as well. So that was heard twice during the event. But for me, predominantly, what I've learned is that, through connection, and it's not something that anybody really taught me how to connect. It was spirit taught me, and spirit continues to teach me. I say it's a universal language that we can all learn and grow and work with if we choose to. And for me, it started out, kind of just knowing things, just kind of knowing things that I don't know how I knew. And the reason why I knew things is because I was on a spiritual journey. I was raising my energy. I was raising my awareness, raising I was open to connecting. Because when I was in my early 20s, I was really trying to connect to my guides and, connect to some people in the spirit world. And it actually happened. But it wasn't until I would go to my ex-wife's work and I'd vibe people out for fun, pretty much. And, because I would say, "That person is, I have a feeling they're probably using and selling drugs," or, "This person is probably stealing money, they shouldn't be trusted. This person, I think they're having an affair. I'm pretty sure they're having an affair."
Yeah.
So I would just tell my wife this, and she thought I was kinda silly and a little bit judgmental, and I really was just sitting there waiting for her because, I had nothing else to do, so I just sit there and just kinda vibe people out. So,
Vibe people
like
out.
within
Yeah, yeah, I
I
love
know,
that.
just
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just observing
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't know these people, but this is my vibes about them, right? And I'm not being judgmental, I just had nothing more to do. This is pre-cell phones, mind you, so now I'd probably be stuck on my phone playing some silly game or something like that. But, back in the day, it was very like you were where you were. Had to be present, observant of the people that you're around, right? And they were all good people despite, the different life choices, etcetera. But she comes home a week later and she goes, "You're not gonna guess what happened today." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Well, the cops came and arrested the guy for dealing drugs. This guy got fired for stealing money out of the till, and he got caught doing it. And the couple that you said that were married to other people, I caught him kissing in the kitchen."
Wow.
And she goes, "How the hell did you know this?" I'm like, "I didn't really know it. I mean, I can't say I really know anything. It was just a thought or a perception, right?"
Yeah.
So she told a friend of hers, and the book is a little bit different. She told a friend of hers named Jen Syme. great girl. And she's written a couple books herself in the past, and she was a waitress. And so my wife's telling her about these stories, and all the waitresses are talking about this now. Jen is very spiritual and open-minded and wants to come see me. And I'm like, what am I supposed to see her about? You know, she goes, well, you're going to give her a little reading. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm giving her a reading? She goes, yeah. She says she thinks you have an ability, you just don't know it, and she wants to see, if you can make a connection for her and give her some guidance and such. I'm like, well, I can't do that. She goes, well, you're doing it anyway on Sunday.
Nice.
So she comes over and we have supper, and now I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, Jen, I tell her, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'll do my best. I'm really kind of like self-conscious and have a lot of fear around maybe like sharing anything. And so the first thing that comes to me is like I see this guy. I hear this name in my head, Dale. I'm like, that's so weird. Do you know a guy named Dale? I said. And she goes, I just met Dale. We've been dating for a little bit now. I said, have you guys had a conversation about going um, traveling and looking after homes or pets or something like this? And she goes, we just talked about this. I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, I thought I was like, this is just silliness, right? And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she goes, but that's not why I come to see you. She's like, came to see you to connect to somebody in the spirit world. I'm like, well, I don't remember ever doing that. And she said, well, I think that you can. I think you have a lot more ability than you know you do. I'm like, okay. So, instantly I think, well, maybe she wants to talk to her grandmom, right? Because that's probably the easiest for me. I don't have to think too hard. And so I described this lady who I felt like was her grandmom. She goes, that's my grandmom. And I'm like, really? Because I'm like, I'm skeptical. I'm
Yeah,
not sure,
yeah.
right? And then she goes, but that's not who I wanted to talk to. I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, there's someone else I was hoping you could make a connection to. I've been to many people and I still haven't made this connection to this person. So I said, well, Jen, I don't know what I'm doing. She says, try, Sean. I'm like, okay. So I focus, because I've been doing a lot of meditation and mindfulness and prayer and ceremony and speaking to the spirit world. And so I said, well, if you can connect to me, I'm open to that. And I kind of staring there and I had this image come into my mind. And the image is a young man. It looks like about 15 or 16 years old. And he's wearing a baseball uniform. And there's a shed behind him, and he has a baseball in his hand, and he's bouncing the ball, and he looks up at me in my eyes, and then he walks into the shed, and that's all I saw. And I'm like, Jen, I'm sure you probably want to talk to your grandfather or somebody, but that I don't know what I'm seeing. I'm trying to get her to this is it, right? And she says, no, I know that you saw something. Tell me what you saw. So I tell her, and she cried. She goes, that was my best friend growing up in high school. And we used to play baseball together, and one night after a game, he went home and he hung himself in the shed. And I've wanted to know my whole life if he's okay. Does he have a message for me? And that's why I'm here, really, to be honest. And I'm, like, shocked because I didn't know how that even
Wow.
just happened, and the best way to describe it was like a memory that I don't have. It was like a daydream that I shouldn't have or a memory that I don't have, but it popped into my mind, and it was very kind of quick, subtle, and not super clear, but just clear enough that I can make out everything that I said. So I said, "I don't know if I can say he's okay," and even in my brain, I'm thinking, how did this just happen, right? How did this transpire?" And, she went out and told the other waitresses after this. Next thing you know, I got people calling me to come see me, and I'm like, "What the hell just happened here?" And, but I was kind of energized by the experience enough to explore it because I want to understand this greater. I want to understand this more. And, I'd been seeing different people and different people come in the house, other waitresses and, friends and all that were coming over to have me make connections, and I was doing all right. I was doing pretty good for somebody to know what they're doing. And, but it was a moment that was literally life-changing. Because again, through all this, I was a wee bit skeptical about it all because I wasn't sure. How can you be sure? And it was a moment that I realized that this was real 100%. And I wasn't mind reading because I originally thought somehow I'm reading people's minds. they're thinking about these people, and I'm seeing what they're thinking about. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. That I'm thinking it's telepathy of sorts. And, so what happened was I was with this guy at work because at this point I was now, working in an office furniture company that's from the US called Hayworth, and I was doing bills of material in AutoCAD. And there's this guy named Orhan who sits beside me in the desk beside me. Great guy. We play sports together, we're pretty competitive. You know, basketball and soccer and all kinds of stuff, went running and such. And, so I told him prior to this, that I was working on my intuitive abilities and trying to understand what was happening and understanding how this all works and such. And he gave me a hard time, like really bad, because he's a guy, one, and and he's not a very spiritual person. He's a non-practicing Muslim fellow from Bosnia, and, but a good guy still, right? Um, and then one day I'm sitting at my computer and I hear a name, and it was almost like a voice in my mind that's not mine, and it was almost like a thought whisper of sorts, and it just says, "Charlie, Charlie, Charlie." And I'm like, "What the hell is going on in my head? Why do I keep hearing Charlie?" Right? And then I look at Orion and I thought, "Okay, well, this Orion's doing something with Charlie on the weekend." That's what I'm thinking this is, right? Because I don't know. I literally don't know what's happening. So I had to know. So I said, "Orion, I got a really weird question for you, and I know you're gonna give me, hassle me and such. Do you know a guy named Charlie?" And he paused, and he said, "I used to know a guy named Charlie." And soon as he said that, it was like an image popped into my mind, of a bar sign in Calgary. And the bar sign was called the Town and Country Bar, and it's just a T and C. T and C, right? Goes blink, and it's like, why is that coming into my head? Like, where is that coming from, first of all? And I told him, and he goes, "What did you say?" I said, "I just saw I for whatever reason, in relation to Charlie, I just saw the Town and Country Bar sign in my mind." He goes, "That's the last place he was seen alive." I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
"Oh, no, this is getting, like, real fast for me," like, and
Yeah.
so as soon as he said that, it was like, soon as he validated what I saw, because I didn't know why I saw it, I saw a house, and this house had a backside entrance to it, and there were stairs going to the basement, and I saw 4 shadow people behind him, and I felt like I got hit in the head, and I know he was going downstairs into the basement apartment area.
Wow.
And I told him, and I said, "Do you know anything about this?" He goes, "No, I don't know anything." And he says, "Why are you asking me this?" I'm like, "Who told you this?" First, he gets pissed off thinking that somehow somebody had told me about this guy, and I'm like, "Well, how do you know this guy, Charlie?" He goes, "Well, I worked with him in the airport 7 years ago, and his name's not even Charlie, it's Achari. We just nicknamed him Charlie because it was easier." I'm like, and he's a Fijian fellow. I'm like, "Okay, Orion, let's think about this. Who here knows that you worked at the airport 7 years ago? And work with a guy named Achari that is nicknamed Charlie that is Fijian. Like, wh how does this all fit in here? Like, put this together. Like, how am I supposed to know this? And were you thinking, and this is where I'm analyzing this. Were you thinking about him recently? I haven't thought about him in years, he says. I said, "This is so strange. Then why am I seeing this?" And then I kept seeing this house, downstairs basement entrance, and these shadows. And I tell him, and he goes, "I don't know anything about that. The only thing I know is that he was found murdered somewhere in the southeast part of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and he was last seen at the Town and Country Bar. That's all I know." I'm like, "Okay." So he got mad at me again, and I said, "Let's just drop it." And, because again, how can he not know this? Because as clear as I saw the bar sign, I was seeing this other stuff, right? So, some time had gone by. He stopped hassling me, which was really nice. But, I picked up the Calgary Sun paper, and the reason why I picked up the Calgary Sun paper was because in Canada, we're hockey fans, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm checking out the hockey scores. I'm not looking for unsolved murder stories.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's a story in the paper about a guy named Achari, last seen at the Town and Country Bar. And they have a picture of the house where he was found murdered in the space that he lived in. And it was this downstairs basement entrance. And, that they didn't say how he died, but they're looking for information. So Orion comes in, he sits down, I put the paper in front of him and said, like, "Do you remember this little conversation we had?" And he denied it at first, and I'm like, "I know you freaking do." And he goes, What do you want me to say? Like, why is this such an important thing to you?" I said, "Because it's in the paper today. It's a story. It's an unsolved murder. It's been going on for years, and they're looking for information, and I may have some pertinent information. But first of all, I need to know, did you know about this house?" And he goes, "I told you before I didn't." And he says, "What are you trying to say? Did I murder him or something?" I'm like, "No, because I was in Bosnia when this happened, so I just heard about it when I was away." I said, "I'm not accusing you. I need to know, did you know about the house or where he was murdered exactly? Did you have an image of that in your mind anywhere?" And he says, "I did not know, Shawn. Are you gonna leave me the hell alone?" I'm like, "You need to swear in some people's lives here, like your family's life, your life. I need to know for sure." And he says, "Why is this so important to you? Like, this is like insane." And I'm like, "Because if you don't know this is gonna sound really out there, Rand, but I feel like people are telling me things and showing me things." And it was like in that moment, I clearly understood there's a form of communication that takes place from people in the spirit world. And they use different ways to communicate. So you see things, you feel things, you hear things, sometimes you know things, you may smell things, taste things. It's like it's not a physical thing that's taking place. It's like a spiritual thing that's taking place that I'm part of. And they're telling me, not, and I like to say they're giving me breadcrumbs. They're taking me on a little journey and I don't know where I'm going yet. They leave me a little piece of information. "Oh, Charlie. Okay, I validate Charlie. Oh, the town and country bar son." They leave me another breadcrumb. "Oh, what about the house and where I was found murdered?" And then I feel the blunt force trauma. It's like they keep leaving me little pieces, and I follow the pieces where they take me. And then I'm like, "Okay, I see the bigger picture here, and I understand what they're saying or what they're trying to tell me, etc." But throughout the years, I mean, that was amazing because it was a pivotal life-changing moment for me that I understood how this was working. And it all took place because I was on a spiritual journey, and I started to speak to the spirit world and invite them to connect to me. I wanted to connect to my ancestors. I wanted to connect to my guides, my totem animals. I wanted to connect, and it started to happen. I started Things started to align for me to connect. I went down a rabbit hole after that you were never gonna pull me out of. I wanted to know more and understand more and experience more, and, throughout my life, it's been amazing in the sense of, there's no person in the world that could say, "Shawn, all this is not real," because I know it's real. To the point where I've had people touch me, put their hand on me, give me little shoves. I hear people speaking to me, and it's not just my imagination because I can record people talking to me sometimes. There's no one around but me, and I remember the first voice I heard when I started to really step into this in my 20s, that I was sitting down waiting to do a session with, for somebody that was coming to my house. And, so this is pre, Facebook, pre everything, right? And anyway, this person's coming to my house and I'm smudging, I'm getting ready, I'm meditating, I'm inviting the spirits to connect to me. But back in the day, and again, this will date me a little bit, because I always recorded my sessions, because sometimes, people wanted a copy or people needed to look things up because and instead of taking notes, I just said, "Just record me doing this," and so I started with tape recorders. I don't know, like, how old are you? Like, how old are you?
38 as of yesterday.
Well,
Yesterday was my birthday. Yeah.
well, happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Happy belated. But did you ever use a tape recorder in your
A
life?
little before my time, but yes, yeah, early days,
Yeah,
tape recording.
right,
Yeah, I
'cause,
know tape
when I
recorders.
was
Yeah.
started doing this work, we didn't have, MP3 recorders or
Yeah, yeah.
phones, cell phones that recorded, computers that recorded anything, nothing like that. So, in order to, 'cause you had to test your tapes because sometimes they didn't record. And so you knew the tape was a dud, you'd have to get a new one, and so before the person comes, I press play and record because that's how you record on a tape recorder. You have to press play and record together. And I would go testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. And so I'm sitting there doing my stuff, inviting the spirits to come. And, it's only me home. And so I rewind and I play back to hear it. And as I play back, I can hear another person there with me. And he's saying
Whoa.
and then
Ooh.
he just says to me, he goes, "I'm right here."
Whoa.
I'm like, "What the freaking hell?" And I
Mm.
rewound it and played it back again. All the hairs on my body stood up. And then the lady came who was coming for the session. I played it to her because I was like, "This is amazing." And she heard it. She goes, "Oh my god, that's my dad."
Whoa.
I'm like, so, sh unfortunately, I used to have a copy of that, but I don't have a copy of that one anymore. But I have recordings of, spirits. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have like 11-minute clip of different voices of people that have talked to me throughout the years in different times, and most of them pre-2010. I was out on a ghost show in Canada called The Ghost Hunters of Grand River, and, I'm saying there's a guy named Paul talking. I hear a guy named telling me his name is Paul. And when you but they didn't hear anything when I was standing there. When they go back to listen to the recordings and watch all the stuff, they can hear somebody telling me their name is Paul. So, I'm not crazy, this is real. This is not this stuff is real, I'm not a psychic ventriloquist. I'm not these voices aren't coming from my head and because I don't even know these people when they talk to me, they just talk to me. And I feel that when we're on a spiritual journey, we become more energized in a way that allows us to kind of raise our energy vibration in a sense, our awareness and our understanding, our connection. And if you're open to it, you're welcome to it. They will reach back to you from time to time and say, "Hey, I am with you too," or "I'm walking with you," or "I'm helping you," "I'm guiding you." And so I have an open invitation to all spirits in a higher level of energy
I like
to
that.
work with me, help others if need be, to align things, in the ways that they do, and that's where my life is kind of, like, transpired,
Yeah. Yeah, I can
and,
definitely relate to that. I was out in Sedona recently and we went on a UFO tour and we were
oh,
sitting
cool.
out there, like we do the whole the protocol you're supposed to do. And I'm sitting there and I see this thing in the sky and it starts moving in this way that it's like a star behaving like a fairy. And I'm saying to everybody, I'm like, "Look, right there, like, this is what we came for, it's right there." And everyone's like, "I don't see anything," you know? And I kept it's right there, and the more I would tell everybody it was right there, the more crazy they thought I was, the more the object in the sky would just go absolutely nuts. And I was like,
Right.
"Alright, this is between me and God." And and that's
Yeah,
what it's like, I know this is real, and I don't need to know that you see it, but I'm seeing something, and it's
right.
cool, you know?
That's right, and if you would have taken your phone and recorded, you might have actually recorded it, and even though they couldn't see it, because maybe their energy vibration isn't to the frequency that yours is for to allow them to see it, right? Because we're all vibrational frequency beings here. And based on our approach to life, how we, through our spiritual work, etc., that allows us to have different experiences. Hence why I can be with people and hear people talking that you can't. But yet I can record them talking to me
Yeah.
and then play it back and you can hear it.
Yeah, really
This
cool.
is not like woo woo. This is just spirit. This is real. Like we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and that includes our star brothers and sisters. They're definitely within and around this world, and have been probably for as long as we have, or if not longer than we have as well. And I know they're everywhere, and I've had experiences like what you said as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why I love Indigenous energy, just like being with you. You got such a cool vibe. I would love to just know if there's any ways that spirit has spoken to you about everything that's going on right now. And for anyone listening, has spirit talked to you about what's going on in the world right now? Is there anything we should know?
Well, they show me things sometimes. They show me prophetic things that go on in the world, right? So I get glimpses of things sometimes. I don't always want to see, the prophecies of things that are coming and going on in the world. And, pre everything that happened with, Israel and Palestine, I had a pretty vivid dream that, even though they've been at war forever, I had a real clear dream that in my dream, I knew I was in that area. And it was like the earth had split apart and I saw one side was just on fire, and it was just like everybody had died. It was horrible. It was horrible. And I saw people in tunnels and all this, and and I knew something was coming, but I didn't know to the extent of which it just had. So, things happen within the world. I mean, all I know is what we can do is because we have an effect on the world.
Yeah, of course.
right? We don't come here just to be enlightened to go home and never come back again. We've come here to remember who we are and to help the world remember who they are too, so that we can kind of evolve beyond this separation that we all experience. We're all one nation. And indigenous people know this. We've known this for forever, that there is a balance in all things. And so, spirit, bad things are going to happen in the world sometimes, but you can't get caught up in it. All you can do is just be who you are to the greatest ability you could be. And there's this great experiment that was done down in the US. I think it might have been New York, but I might be mistaken. Have you ever heard of the experiment with TM Sadas, the meditation experience, a group meditation experience?
And what happens?
Well, what happened was it was a coherent thing where they brought everybody together to meditate for I think it was like a week or two. And actually, in the space from which they were, and they just meditated on presence, mindfulness, peace, and things like that, the crime rate
Yes.
dropped in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
space
yeah, yeah.
from
Yep,
which they were, right?
yep.
So you have heard of
I
it.
have, yes.
So we have an effect on the world around us. And unfortunately, media and, and there's good and bad media because of what we're doing here, I feel is good to kind of enlighten people,
Of
help people,
course, yeah.
right? And there's a lot of media out there that creates fear or separation uh, or it's misinformation, etcetera, and it's like keeps you disconnected and keeps you disharmonious, and separate all the time. And it doesn't matter what political party you think you belong to, it exists in all of them. But, we have to remember who we are as humanity as opposed to thinking I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or etcetera like that, right? That we have to find a way to love one another, to be kind to one another, to respect one another, to communicate as great as we can about our differences, but also work together. And I think just like that experiment, it takes many people to shift their consciousness, their awareness, to create this new coherence of reality that is going to exist around us. And it's not just indigenous people, obviously. It's the Caucasian people, the East Indian people, the red people, and the yellow people of the world. It's the medicine. Well, we're one hoop of life here, and we have to find a way to come together and to support each other as opposed to thinking this is my land or your land or this is my country, your country, or this is my religion and not yours. And it's there's been so much division. There needs to be a new way of seeing things. And maybe we will evolve to that in time. So if I was to say we're moving there now. I mean, you may think that we're moving slowly, but we've really only been able to look at what we're doing right now. If you thought about this 100 years ago, right, you would have thought this was like Star Trek science fiction.
Yeah, yeah,
Here
yeah,
we're
yeah.
having conversations, you're in Massachusetts, I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, and we're talking about spiritual things, and other people are gonna watch this, and it's gonna shift their reality and help them see the world differently and think about their coherence and connection to Mother Earth as well, right? But so it takes people like all of us, like you, like me, like that your audience, that, watch things that are inspired, in spirit, that move through life in a good way, to approach all people in a good way, to bring balance to a place where there is no balance. Because this is the world is struggling with that. And you can see it if you look, you don't have to look very hard, you'll see the imbalance of many things. But we may think it as like we say Turtle Island, which is like North America, because why we say Turtle Island is because we, as indigenous people, have been connected to the Star Brothers and Sisters, right? Because we wouldn't know North America was shaped like a turtle unless we're able to kind of either cyclically observe it from above or visit with our Star Brothers and Sisters to see it from above, to say, hey, we live on a big turtle here. So, because North America is shaped in the turtle.
I love
And,
that.
but, it takes a lot of people to and you may think Iraq or Iran or Pakistan or, Israel. I mean, they're maybe not, we're not as far ahead of either that we may think we are in North America, Turtle Island. We still got growth, but they have growth too. But if we can't be a good example for people in the world to see what harmonious living looks like, then how are they gonna see to aspire to it? So we have to be good stewards or good examples to show people what's possible if you change your thinking.
Mm, yeah. That makes sense. So that's the vision that we're holding for the future is harmonious living in all lands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
Beautiful.
hoping we'll get there. I'm hoping. I'm very and you know what? It may take us, like, many lifetimes to get there. But time is irrelevant. It's more about us continuing to move in that direction of source, which is, peace and unconditional love and kindness, compassion. That's that space from which we all have come from, and somehow we've come here to and forgotten who we are, and it's to remember and bring that piece of, that the other side or spirit world with us here.
Awesome. Yeah, well, you are an amazing storyteller, and I really enjoyed our time together today. Is there any final message you'd like to share with our group? And also, how can we support you?
Well, I mean, you could come to my website if you're interested in buying any one of my books,
Yeah.
Spirit Talker or Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals. I have an Oracle card deck too, Wisdom of
Nice.
the Elders Oracle card deck, which is also Hayos Publishing. You can go to my website, Shawn, SHAWN, hyphen Leonard, LEONARD.com. And you can purchase them. There's links there to purchase all those things, or you can go to Amazon or Indigo or Barnes and Noble or wherever you feel like you can find me everywhere there. And I'd say just, be a good person in life. Walk in a good way. We like one of the things I teach about in the book, Walking the Spirit Fundamentals, and I talk about animal qualities, is the 7 grandfather teachings. Are you familiar with those?
No, no.
Okay. Well, it's even in my Oracle card deck. I'll just quickly run through them.
Yeah, please.
So there's the 7 grandfather teachings. One is humility, which is best represented by the wolf. 2 um, is truth, which is best represented by the turtle. 3 is the bear, one of my totems, bravery, right? 4 is love, an eagle. My name is White Eagle Spirit Talker, hence why there's a heart on the eagle. 5, respect, is represented with the bison or the buffalo. 6, wisdom, and the beaver. Because the beaver has to have great wisdom when it, like, affects and changes the environment from which it's surrounded by. And this one I really love, when it is really cool, it's honesty, but it's taught by Sabe or Bigfoot. Because Bigfoot is different. Bigfoot has to be honest with himself and honest with who he is in life, even if they are different. So you may be the different person in your family. You may be the different person that you may not feel like you fit in with the people around you because you're on a spiritual journey of this kind of, evolving self that is continually to grow. So through these 7 grandfather teachings, we don't have commandments. We don't have like biblical scripture, things like that, but we have is ways to approach life. And if you can embody those 7 grandfather teachings and call upon those animals if need be, and I talk about them in my new book, that it'll help you approach life in a good way, to approach all humanity in a good way, to approach nature in a good way, to approach the resources from which Mother Earth provides us in a good way. And it's really about being good people, good stewards of Mother Earth, the land, and humanity itself. But
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to trying to do my best to live in a good way. And I love the energy of you and the Indigenous people. So much respect. And thank you very much for this time, Sean. It's been a pleasure.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and thank your audience for being here and listening today.
Thank you, everybody. We love you all. Bye.